Huh. Yeah. You know what time it is. Welcome back to the locker room with Coach Young. Tape up the ankles, clean up the floor. Game plan ready, we came for more. Down in the room where the real ones speak. Film on the wall and the whole team eat. The locker room. The locker room. Bring the grease, bring the fight. Coach Young in the mix, and we set tonight. Huh.
What is going on, everybody? This is your friendly neighborhood coach, and this is the next installment of the Locker Room. Listen, you are here with your friendly neighborhood coach, and I am going to talk about Cleveland sports this week. What's been going on in Cleveland sports? We're going to talk a little bit of the Cleveland Browns and their training camp and how things are going. We're going to talk a little bit about competition, and not just at the quarterback position. We're going to talk a little bit around the board. It's about to get hot and heavy now because they're getting ready to go into the preseason, all right? Then we're going to talk a little bit of Cavs. Cavs been a little bit quiet. Is that a problem, or is things working? We're going to talk about that behind the scenes. Plus, I got a little bit of a rant that's going to come down the line. We'll see how it goes, all right? And then we're going to talk a little bit of the Guardians. The Guardians made a big-time trade, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So sit back and get ready for the Locker Room. Everybody talking about the quarterback position between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders, but I'm not going to start right there. We're going to get to that because there's been a lot of nonsense and boo-boo that's been talked about. And I got my man G. Bush, and he going to break things down to you like a fraction. There's also a coach's rant that I got coming down the line. So you guys need to get ready because it's a report that came out of the top 35 quarterbacks in the NFL. And it was something that was sent by anonymous general managers and anonymous defensive coordinators. So I got my feels on that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But training camp has started, and there's some competition that's going on in there. And so I want to break down some of the other positions that are being fought for in Cleveland Browns camp, okay? First of all is the left tackle. Now, Spencer Fano is the left tackle that was drafted by the Browns. He was their number one draft pick, drafted by the Browns to be at left tackle. However, he's taken some time to catch up, and that's okay. That's what happens when it comes to rookies. It takes some time to catch up. But in the meanwhile, you got big, giant DeJuan Jones that's behind him. Now, DeJuan Jones' biggest issue is that he can't stay healthy. That's the problem with DeJuan Jones. Otherwise, I call DeJuan Jones the TJ Watt stopper because he is. Every time TJ Watt came up against Big Thanos, he got the business, but DeJuan can't stay healthy. Now, I don't subscribe to all the other junk that I hear when it comes to DeJuan Jones, saying that he's not good enough to play the position. He is good enough. He's big. And so that puts a wear and tear on your body, people. So, I like that competition between DeJuan Jones and Spencer Fano. All right. Jared Verse has been working with Spencer Fano, and it's really been helpful to his game. Coach Monk can let that be known. Then there's the wide receiver position. So let's talk about it for a second, okay? We all know that tight end is already locked, okay? Harold Fannin Jr.'s got that on lockdown. That's clamp. That's lock. He's got that locked down, okay? So for me, I don't even talk about the tight end position because he has it locked up. So let's talk about the wide receivers. You have Jerry Jeudy, you have Denzel Boston, you have KC Concepcion, and Isaiah Bond. Anything after that, I really don't want to talk about. Any wide receiver after that, I don't want to talk about. Okay, those are the guys, all right? So who is going to be your number one receiver? Well, everybody's saying is Jerry Jeudy. I get that. But Jerry Jeudy has got to be consistent in terms of catching the football for me. I'm not a big Jerry Jeudy fan. I'm just not. To me, he makes Steve Smith Sr. look like a prophet. because Steve Smith Sr. let it be known about Jerry Jeudy, all that stuff that happened a couple years ago. And to me, it hasn't changed. Jerry Jeudy is still Jerry Jeudy. This is a make or break year to me for Jerry Jeudy. Then you have Denzel Boston, who they have compared to Mike Evans, which is a decent comparison. But hold on, contraire move, Fred. Let's not get all caught up into the Mike Evans thing. Let's get him out on the field against the ones. Let's get him out on the field against the Denzel Wards and the guys of that ilk. Let's get him out on the field first. I hope he does turn into a Mike Evans. But right now, we got to sit and we got to wait and see how he develops, okay? So you look at Jerry Jeudy is going to be, wide receiver 1. Denzel Boston is going to be 2. Then you got KC Concepcion, and then you have Isaiah Bond in that slot. Right now, to me, who's ahead of the game? Isaiah Bond. I've heard a lot about KC Concepcion. I heard Concepcion is real well. I think Concepcion is going to not just make his mark as a receiver, but I also think he's going to make his biggest mark as a return specialist. We haven't had a good return specialist in Cleveland since Eric Metcalf and Gerald McNeil. We have, and Josh Cribbs. I don't want to disrespect Josh Cribbs. So we haven't had someone who strikes fear in the return game. And so I see KC Concepcion really causing havoc within the return game. But in terms of the wide receiver, to me, this is a make or break for Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy has got to come through when it comes to being wide receiver 1. All right. Whether it's Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, he has got to be able to catch the football in traffic. And as I've said on 3 the Hard Way, which is our sports podcast, me, the Captain T, and L Train. We talk Cleveland sports on there as well. When it comes to Jerry Jeudy, I broke it down like a fraction. Jerry Jeudy is not a hands catcher. If you look at a lot of Jerry Jeudy's drops are based off the fact that he lets the ball get into his chest. And every wide receiver coach has let it be known that you do not allow the ball to get into your body. Once the ball gets into your body, anything can happen. And so when you look at the majority of Jerry Jeudy's drops, some of them is concentration, but some of it is the fact that he lets the ball attack him and he doesn't attack the ball. Okay. So to me, this is a make or break year when it comes to Jerry Jeudy. Okay. Grant Delpit and McNeil Warren. You get that DB position, that safety position. Now, Grant Delpit just signed a big time contract, but McNeil Warren is right around the corner. Okay. And then you got Ronnie Hickman, who's still there. And so it's going to be a battle at the safety position. So this is what I'm saying. Everybody is talking about the quarterback position. And that's fine. You got to have a good quarterback. I get that. But there are other positions that are being fought for at Brown's camp. Now, Todd Monken has done a great job in maneuvering this camp. They're getting ready to go into the preseason. They're getting ready to go into scrimmaging, like combined scrimmage. I think they go against Buffalo. And I've said this before. This is where the rubber hits the road, people. This is where you find out who's who and what's what. This is where you see who your guys are. Okay. And so for me, I'm very curious for the preseason. I want to see, how they work out in the preseason. And so having said that, Todd Monken came out and he talked about how he's going to play the quarterbacks for the preseason. This footage is from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Mikey McNuggets. You have G. Bush, my man G. Bush, Earl the Pearl, on the panel. And they're going to talk a little bit about what Todd Monken said when it came to the quarterback position. So here is UCSS and Coach Monken.
Take it away.
So Cameron Wolf,
friend of the program. He's actually come on twice. Hasn't been on in 2 years. We got to get Cam back on.
Yeah.
But he was doing his
And I'd
training
be
camp
remiss,
tour
Jay
in South
Crawford,
by
I'm
Berea
sorry.
earlier this week and got a one-on-one with Todd Monken. And for the first time, to my knowledge, Todd Monken actually gave us some insight into his plans for how to start his quarterbacks in the preseason. Todd told Cam Wolf in a one-on-one interview, quote, Monken just told me a few minutes ago that he's going to start one quarterback the first preseason game. The other will start the second. And then most likely the leader of the competition is going to start the third. This next week is going to decide who gets each of those games. So it's like we thought. Deshaun will start one. Shador will start one. The third will be the most likely week one quarterback for the Browns. Earl, I think we're going to agree, so we're going to get to the next part quickly. But this is the right way to handle the quarterback situation if you're Todd Monken, correct?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think this is the right way to handle it. We've just went through those 8 days of install. Todd Monken has been rotating the quarterbacks each and every day, and now that install is over and you starting to get into the meat and potatoes of putting everything together and actually, practicing against mock schemes and mock fronts that you're going to see when the season starts, it makes all the sense in the world as you start to work your way towards real games that whoever starts to outperform each other this week, next week, etc., especially in those preseason games, will get the nod to start their third preseason game, which I believe will inevitably show who's the starting quarterback is for the 2026 season. And so, yeah, I do think that this is the right way to go about that.
Man, it's the only way to do it. That's why, listen, I've been steadfast and standing on what I'm saying. Like a lot of people, hey, give this person a job here, give this person a job here. We should just go ahead and do this. Nah, it's like, no, like, Todd Monken has always said, man, your team and his team and the players will choose who the player is. Now that the install is in, now we want to see who's going to make the plays. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? My coach used to tell me, shout out to Coach Ray McCartney, defensive line. He said, man, don't tell me about the labor pain. Show me the baby. People just want to see the baby. They want baby pictures. Like, let's get to it. You got to go through the pain to get to the games. And so you got the install in. Now it's time to see who can go and be in a game time situation and make plays. Like, let me just keep it real. Yes, structure is great. Playing in structure is great. But you need to, for a franchise quarterback and a starting quarterback, you need three components of your game. You need to have the mental
now listen closer to this.
Understanding what you need to do at the line of scrimmage and what to get your team in the best position. You need to also understand where the play is supposed to be going and what the concept is from the coach. But the third thing that you must marry with that is when all else fails and the 15-pitch the scripted plays is out of here, what do you do to make plays when everything falls apart?
So, once again, shout out to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Jay Crawford, Mikey McNuggets, Earl the Pearl, and G. Bush. So, Todd Monken said he's going to start one quarterback, one preseason game, the other quarterback, the other preseason game, and then he's going to make his decision by who starts that third game. Okay? So the pressure is on, Deshaun Watson and Shador Sanders. The pressure is on them. And even Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel has been playing better. From all reports, Dylan Gabriel has done a great job in terms of getting himself in the mix, even though, for the third quarterback, I don't believe he'll vie for the starter. Okay. But I think it's great because you have a legitimate competition. That coach who's down in Atlanta, who was in Cleveland last season, and I told y'all I'm not naming him. I'm not giving him any names. I'm not doing that. He's down in Atlanta, but it wasn't a true quarterback competition. Okay, he brought in Kenny Pickett, who's with the Carolina Panthers, who still looks terrible to me. He had Joe Flacco, who was 2 years brought back 2 years too late. Deshaun was on the sidelines doing nothing. Then he wanted to push Dylan Gabriel down our throats, a 5'0", 100 size quarterback. And then he has Shador throwing to towel boys and garbage cans. Okay, so to me that wasn't a legitimate quarterback competition. But now you have a legitimate one. You have Deshaun Watson, who's vying for QB1. You have Shedeur Sanders, who's vying for QB1. Okay. But the thing is that they both have flaws. Shedeur, from what Coach Monken had been saying, Shedeur needs to get out of the huddle faster. Shedeur needs to, in terms of getting the play call and to read a little bit quicker. Okay, listen, I'm not going to sit up here and make Shedeur Sanders to be the end all of all. He's got flaws in his game, but so does everyone else. Deshaun Watson has thrown too many interceptions in training camp. He's got to learn to protect the ball, and that's what Coach Monken has said. He's got to learn to protect the football. But now the rubber hits the road, okay? The rubber will hit the road. And what happens then is then you will know when them bullets start coming and you got the pads on and people are coming at you, now we're going to see, okay? We're going to see. And so I'm looking forward to preseason. I've never looked more forward to a preseason than now. I look forward to preseason. Okay. Like I said, there are other competitions that's going on, and I'm looking forward to those competitions. I'm looking forward to the Grant Delpits and the McNeil Warrens. I'm looking forward to Carson Schlesinger in his second year. Williams, the linebacker that they brought in from the Jets. I'm looking forward to Jared Verse. I'm looking forward to the new Browns. That's who I'm looking forward to, but I want to see them in the preseason. Okay. So, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hopeful that the Browns will be, relevant this year. I'm not going to give my predictions. I told y'all that if they come together the way that I believe that they'll come together, then, things are going to take place. And I don't believe that the Cleveland Browns will be a team that you can just walk over this year. Just not the way the defense, I think, is going to fly around, and not the way the offense is going to improve. I'm not saying they're Super Bowl caliber. Coach Young is not that kind of guy. But I'm saying you're not going to come in there and you're not going to walk over them like you did in the past. All right? Staying with the Browns, but switching gears a little bit. Okay? There was a report that came out ranking all of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And I seen, some they had them in tiers. They had a top tier, they had a mid tier, and then so on and so forth. Deshaun Watson was number 31, and Shedeur Sanders was 35 out of 35. Okay. But that's not the point. The point was the conversation behind that. There was information taken from anonymous GMs and anonymous defensive coordinators, which one anonymous defensive coordinator said playing Shedeur Sanders, he wouldn't lose a wink of sleep, and there's no way you should lose to him. There were words that were used in the commentary that I took offensive because it made it sound like Shedeur Sanders was ignorant. Okay. Competent quarterback play, which is amazing to me. But I'm going to talk about it after this. This is G. Bush. And G. Bush talked about the biasness in the media, especially Cleveland media. So I want to play this for you guys. This is G. Bush. Shout out to the barbershop and G. Bush.
But I just feel like it just needs to be said. The thing that I struggle with the most, and I just got to fully embrace it, like, we never going to see eye to eye. I am never going to see eye to eye with some of the people who do this job for a living with me, because we don't have the same principles. We don't come from the same thing. So I don't know why I keep having to realize to myself that these people is never going to be what you are. So you should cease to stop expecting somehow to come around to it, because it's not going to happen. And we all kind of knew that. But just going to practice and watching, it shows you something. This is an eye-opening situation. You go to practice, you see something with your eyes. And the reason I started going to practice is because I wanted to see the difference, not only see how the team is doing and get to a point where we can, cover the team and like regular teams. I wanted to see what's the difference between what people is printing and what people is seeing. And in the day.
Now, let me stop there for a second. G. Bush is talking about the fact of just like this ranking 35, quarterbacks in the league. And he's talking about the Cleveland media, sports media specifically, because what they have been printing is not what's been going on. And so he has been going to the camp and he's seen firsthand what's been going on. And so now he's hearing the talking heads in the Cleveland sports media talk about how this quarterback competition is going and spinning their own narrative. And I think where G. Bush is right now is he's just gotten tired of it. But let me let him finish, okay? I just wanted to preface that as you guys are listening to him right now, and even those that are on YouTube that are seeing.
The days that I've been here, it has been stark. It has been crazy. And what you realize is people don't even know what they're looking at. So I see why the narrative is different from what you see on the football field, because if you don't understand what you're actually even looking at, you're just going off of just ignorance. And
so, having said that, him saying that, and I'm gonna let this finish, but I gotta throw this stuff in here. Let's go back to when Ryan Clark, made his statement to Peter Schrager on ESPN. And he basically let him know, you can't talk about something that you haven't done. You can't go out here and make a determination on a sport that you've never played. And I know Coach Young will get pushback on that because there are a lot of reporters out here and there's a lot of coaches out here. And I think I saw somebody say like Bill Belichick didn't play at a high level when it came to football, but he's one of the greatest coaches of all times. Let me break that down to y'all for a second. Do you realize who Bill Belichick coached up under? He coached up under his father, that was one, who was a legendary coach. And then he coached up under Bill Parcells, who was a legendary coach. Let me tell you something. You don't just learn sports through osmosis. You sometimes have to listen to smarter people. And that's what Bill Belichick did. He listened to smarter people. So miss me with that. I want to hear from people who have been in the trenches. I want to hear from people who have seen the game, played the game, understand the idiosyncrasies of the game, and can sit and break down film. Okay? I don't want to sit with Jason Lloyd. You want to know why? Because he can't tell me anything that I don't already know. Okay? I don't want to sit down with Adam the Bull because he can't tell me anything that I don't already know. Okay? I don't want to sit down with them. I don't want to sit down with Aaron Goldhammer because he can't tell me anything other than figure skating. He can't tell me anything about the game. Okay? I want to sit down with guys like Gerard Cherry, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Tyvis Powell. Okay? I want to sit down when it comes to football. I want to sit down with those guys. Those guys are going to break down football to me. I want to sit down with guys who can break down the NBA to me. Okay? Who can, guys who've played in the game. Okay? Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes. All right? Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. I want to talk to those guys because they've been in the trenches. They've been in championship locker rooms. Okay? I don't want to talk to people who have not played the game and have no understanding of the game. And then you report it as if you are the end all of all. All right? Let me let G. Bush finish.
And I'm looking and I'm watching some of the stuff that people is talking about. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Cadences and what are you what are we talking about here? I had people talk about, that throw wasn't good. And the most part that I got a problem with is this. if Deshaun Watson has a good throw or a good practice, I can say, oh, he had a good practice. You can go on Final Cut. Me and Earl talked about it. Me, Earl Tyvis, Coach Riz, we talked about it. The day before, I put out a tweet that Dylan Gabriel did pretty good in a period. Awesome. I don't understand how I can sit here and give Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel credit where credit is due. But the first time Shedeur Sanders does anything well, it's either outright ignored, people move into this weird trolling stuff where it's like, you know, they can't defend their position, or if he does anything, they just outright ignore it like it never happened.
So shout out once again, G. Bush, the barbershop, you know, and if you have not, you know, liked or subscribed with Garrett Bush, go ahead and go to the barbershop, man. That's the dude I rock with. I follow him. Why? Because he's real. And so he made a statement that makes so much sense. And I want to, you know, say what's up to my Insta. I want to say what's up to TikTok. You know what I mean? I know y'all on here. Welcome to the Locker Room. Thank you for joining in. This is your friendly neighborhood coach, and we talk Cleveland sports, and this is how we get it done. All right. So what G. Bush is talking about is basically they talking out both sides of their neck. Somebody, they go to these camps and they see what's going on, and then they report it completely inaccurately, okay, so that they can push their narrative. And so my mindset is, I always say this when it comes to the quarterback position in Cleveland, it's ABS. And what do I mean by ABS? Anybody but Shedeur, okay? And so I'm going to answer this question because a lot of folks have asked this question and they want to get the answer, and a lot of folks have been tiptoeing around it and won't say it. What is the hate in Cleveland with the Cleveland sports media and Shedeur Sanders? I'm about to break this down to y'all like a fraction. Because number one, when it comes to Shedeur, you can't change who he is. He came from a solid family, okay? He came from a Hall of Famer, all right? That number one, they don't like Dion. They never have. But here you have an African-American young man who understands his worth, who understands who he is. And I'm not going to stand on my soapbox about it, but this is the problem, that he can talk to the average media person and be sure of what he's talking about. He enjoys life. He's enjoying being who he is. Okay. So what did the NFL try to do? They tried to humble him. That's why he got drafted in the 5th round. But he was just as good as Cam Ward. Because see, what people don't seem to understand is Shedeur Sanders led the nation. He led the nation in accuracy, in completion accuracy. Okay. Yes, he took a lot of sacks. His offensive line was trash. Okay. Why do you think he functioned so well last year in Cleveland? Because that offensive line was trash. He's used to it. He knows it. But because he's sure of himself, because he came in, and I've said this on this show, and I've said this on 3 the Hard Way. They did not draft him high because Kevin Stefanski did not want him. And I know I said I wasn't going to mention his name, but I had to. He didn't want him. Okay. But I'm going to tell y'all, Jimmy did. All right. And so what did the coach do? He had him throwing the ball boys and you know, towel guys. Okay. He did everything to keep that kid under his thumb. Now this kid is in a competition and he has the potential of being the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And you got the media who cannot stand it. You have the sports media in Cleveland who cannot stand it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am from Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. I am now a transplant, been here in Arizona for 20 years, but I love Cleveland. I love my Cleveland sports. And I also understand that the Cleveland sports media has had a unique relationship with athletes in Cleveland. Okay? The sports media will run athletes out of Cleveland. All right? I mean run them out of Cleveland. So they tried to run Deshaun out, okay, because of the allegations with Deshaun Watson, okay, but because Jimmy Haslam signed him to a $250 million contract, they couldn't get rid of him. So here comes Shador. They've been trying to get rid of Shador since Shador was drafted and since he landed. But Shador Sanders is very savvy. What did he do? What a lot of folks don't understand is he embedded himself into the community, the African American community. That's what he did. So the Browns couldn't get rid of him even if they wanted. Because why? He understands media. Who did he learn that from? Who did he learn that from? He learned that from one of the best. And that happens to be his father. But you have a confident African-American quarterback in Cleveland, and they trying to run him out because they can't change it. They can't maneuver him. They can't steer him. And he stands there and he smiles at the media all the time. They don't like that. So what do? They create these narratives. Okay? And so people will ask, well, wait a minute. The Cleveland media didn't run Myles Garrett out of town. No, Myles Garrett ran Myles Garrett out of town. Myles Garrett didn't want to be there. Myles Garrett is about Myles Garrett, but I digress. I'm not going to get into all that. Okay? But Shador Sanders has every opportunity to become the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. But see, the reason that he's really tearing up their narrative is because they want the savior. They want the Messiah. They want the next big thing. They want Arch Manning. Yeah, I said it. I said it because nobody else will. They want Arch Manning. Let me tell y'all something. And hear me closely. When Eli came out of Ole Miss and the San Diego Chargers were talking about drafting him, who stepped up and said he's not going to San Diego? Oh, okay, yeah, that was Archie, right? His father. Archie's grandfather. So what makes these media people in Cleveland think that Archie Manning, who did not allow his son to go to the Chargers, would allow his grandson to go to the Browns? People, my mother used to say common sense is not always common, but we need to begin to use it. We got to begin to use common sense, okay? It does not make sense for Arch Manning to show up in Cleveland. Now, I don't wish any ill will on Arch Manning. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's out of that Manning lineage. I think he's going to be outstanding. I can't wait to look at him this year in Texas. You know, Sarkisian is going to really have him up to speed in Texas, okay? But if it comes down to Arch staying in school or going to Cleveland, I'm telling you right now, the Manning family is not going to allow Arch to go to Cleveland. Okay? Now, for those that just gotta have somebody, they gotta have somebody, okay, is Lenore Sellers. Okay? That young man is a top-tier quarterback. You know, I'm not going to get into all that, but I believe he's the cousin of the mayor of Warrensville, Brad Sellers. But he's a really, really good athlete. Okay. And so I'm looking forward to him playing this year. I think he's at South Carolina. Don't quote me on it, guys. Don't quote me on it. But this narrative that the Cleveland sports media is trying to push, they're losing, guys. They're losing because you got independent guys like Garrett Bush, Big Snacks, myself, and there are others, okay, that are destroying this narrative from the Cleveland sports media. And G. Bush went on, I only gave you a couple of minutes of what he said, but G. Bush went on to say that's why athletes don't want to talk to us. That's why they don't want to speak to us. That's why they don't want to come on certain platforms, because they get misrepresented. Okay? And so that's why every chance I get, I call out that sports media. Mary Kay Cabot, who said Deshaun Watson was in the league. Who is she? Okay. So, you know, and I got a question here from Coach G. He said, "What do you think?" This is from my TikTok. Shout out to all my TikTok viewers. Said, "What do you think about the Browns spending money on the stadium?" Hey, listen, I went to Municipal Stadium when I was a kid. I was there, me and my wife actually, for the last game when the Browns moved to Baltimore. I mean, it's a money thing. Jimmy Haslam got the money to spend. It's actually closer to my childhood home. So, it really doesn't bother me. I mean, but you have to have a winning product to go in there. And that's why this media wants, the Messiah. Okay. Because they don't believe in Shador. All right. But they can't get rid of him, And so do I wish that this young man, success? Do I wish that he's going to, for him to be successful this year? I do. I mean, ultimately, I want the Cleveland Browns to win. That's what I want. I want them to win. I want them to be relevant in the league again. I don't want them being doormats anymore. But this Cleveland sports media is trying their damnedest to get this kid out of there. And like I said, Mary Kay Cabot, she's one. Jason Lloyd is another one. Okay. Adam the Bull, which I don't listen to anything that brother says if it doesn't have anything to do with baseball. He can't tell me jack. Okay. You go over to ESPN Cleveland, then you have Aaron Goldhammer. Huh? I don't pay Aaron Goldhammer. I don't pay any attention to Goldhammer. And I don't know why y'all do. If he not in there with Uncle Riz, man, come on, dude. And then Emmett Golden is another one. And listen, man. I'm just very honest with my assessment. Emmett Golden is another one. Okay. Well, why is Coach Prime? Why did he have to come to practice? Cause he can. You didn't say nothing when Dabo Sweeney showed up to come see Deshaun. Nah, you didn't say nothing then. That's what I'm saying. Don't pick and choose your narratives. If you're gonna report it all. Okay. And I think that's what G. Bush is talking about. So when it comes to this quarterback ranking, my thing is I don't want to hear anonymous. Don't sucker out saying, oh, well, the anonymous GM and the anonymous defensive coordinator. No. Put names on it. Put names on it. Because me as a coach, if I'm talking about a player, I'm putting my name on it. Now, what does that lead me up to? If that player comes and plays against my team, then I just gave him bulletin board material. Okay? But I'm not going to sit here and say, well, don't say that I said that. This is what's going on. I'm not going to lose no sleep. I'm not going to lose no sleep over Shador Sanders, but, don't put my name on it. To me, that's cowardice. You a sucker. Okay? Defensive coordinators. Oh, I won't lose any sleep. Then put your name on it then. Put your name on it. Okay, put your name on it in big bold letters. Defensive coordinator for such and such and so and so. Put your name on it. Otherwise, stop talking. I don't roll like that. Okay, I've coached football and other sports for 20 years. If I had something to say about a player, I said it, and I put my name on it. Okay. Anybody who says anonymous, sucker. And I can't hear nothing you saying. And I won't hear anything you saying. When you say anonymous, sucker. Okay? Anonymous GM, sucker. Anonymous coordinator, sucker. Anonymous front office person, sucker. That's sucker. That's you being a chump. So when it comes to this them ranking the 35 players, I'm not tripping on the ranking. Cause that's subjective. Okay. They have Lamar Jackson as the fifth best quarterback. Lamar Jackson, who just won another MVP, guys. 2-time MVP, but you say he's the fifth player. Come on, man. So it's subjective. I'm not tripping on that. I'm not tripping that Deshaun Watson is 31. He hasn't played legitimate football in a while. He's coming off Achilles, two Achilles injuries. So I'm not tripping on that. I'm not tripping on Shador being 35th. I'm not tripping on that. That is subjective. That's the way people think. But it's the commentary behind it that tried to make Shador Sanders look as if he was unintelligent and as he was ignorant. That's the stuff that I don't like. All right. That passive aggressive, bull jump. That's the stuff that I don't like. Okay. And I don't like the anonymous. Don't be anonymous. Open your mouth. Speak with your chest. Let it be known. I think Shador, if you're going to say you don't think Shador Sanders can play, then put your name on it. You know why these dudes won't put their name on it? Because there's a possibility that Shador is going to be good. And that kid's got a long memory. And he's going to be good enough to come into your stadium. And he's good. He has the potential of being good enough to beat you. So that's why these guys not putting their names on it. That's why. Because they know of the potential that Shador Sanders has. Okay. I can get into something deeper, but that has nothing to do with the locker room. Because I have my own thoughts on why they really trying to hold this young man down. Okay. So, that to me, the training camp is really going to set people apart. All right. It's really going to set people apart. When you get done, when you start going heads on and you got equipment on and them bullets is flying, then you're going to start seeing people. Okay. You're going to start seeing what's real. All right. All right. Let's switch gears, y'all. Let's talk a little bit about the Cleveland Cavaliers, shall we? But before I do that, let me do this. Okay. I didn't get a chance to tell you. The locker room is sponsored by the Dough Guard. Now, of course, I want y'all to understand. All right. Yes, I'm a personal trainer, but I love sweet treats myself. All right. And so the locker room has a sponsor, and that's the Dough Guard. All right. Check this out. I want to thank today's sponsor of the locker room, the Dough Garden. Listen, Coach Young is recommending that you go and get your tasty treats. You have sourdough bread, you have cinnamon rolls, plus much more. Click the QR code and go and place your order. And let the Dough Guard know that Coach Young sent you. Also, you got the ability to get party packs. Once again, I want to thank the Dough Garden for sponsoring the locker room. So, yeah, shout out to the Dough Garden. Appreciate the Dough Garden for sponsoring this episode of the Locker Room. All right. If you guys want to sponsor an episode of the Locker Room, then all you need to do is hit me up at CoachYoung3434@gmail.com. That is CoachYoung3434@gmail.com. You can sponsor an episode of the Locker Room. Okay, the Cleveland edition or the Locker Room, the Arizona edition. You can sponsor any one of them. Okay, and when I do the broadcast, you will see your logo up. All right, so that is CoachYoung3434@gmail.com. All right, let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, so we all know that the Cavaliers lost out on the LeBron chase. And so the question was asked, what's next for them? What are they going to do? They've been really quiet, okay? They've been really quiet when it comes to the off season, okay? And so I looked up some of the free agents. I did that before I came on the show here, and I looked up the free agents that are left out there. And I'm going to tell you, it's absolute garbage that's left out there. God, you don't know them. I mean, cheese and crackers and cheese. You don't know none of them. The only ones out there that are worth mentioning to me is you got DeMar DeRozan, who's still out here. Jonathan Kuminga is still out here. Russell Westbrook is still out here. I know the Cavs have talked about trading for PJ Washington. Just to me, guys that don't turn the needle. They don't move the needle for me. Okay. Kuminga may, DeRozan will. But I don't see anything that Kobe Altman is doing right now. He's sitting on his hands, and I don't, and that's not saying he's not working the phones and trying to find the right deal. But I'm saying this right now. If you try to run this team back as they are constructed, you are sixth in the Eastern Conference. I said that. I said that on a previous Locker Room. You are number 6 in the Eastern Conference if you run this team back as if they are constructed. This team does not move the ball. They have difficulty scoring. Evan Mobley is Evan Mobley. I'm tired of hearing this Evan Mobley rhetoric. Evan Mobley is who he is. If y'all expect Evan Mobley to come out and average 25 and 15, I got a bridge in Brooklyn that I want to sell you, because he's not. Okay? You have no wing. You have no one on the wing that's effective. I think Jalen Tyson is that guy, but because you brought in James Harden, now the ball sticks. When the ball was moving, I mean, you have to look at what Jalen Tyson was doing, okay? I understand letting Keon Ellis go. Keon Ellis is a lockdown defender, but he's small. So I understood that, okay? I understand keeping the younger guys. I understand even a draft pick. I watched that dude light it up in the summer league, okay? Malik Thomas. He lit it up in the summer league. I saw what he was doing, okay? Now, can he do that? Can he do that at this level? I don't know yet, okay? I don't know. But if the Cavaliers bring this team back the way they are constructed, they are 6th at best in the Eastern Conference. Okay? So James Harden he says he's going to sign his deal, but he's going to wait and see what Kobe Altman is going to do to help surround the team. So at least he's going to try to be cap friendly. All right. Donovan Mitchell, believe it or not, did the same thing. Shout out to Donovan Mitchell and Miss Coco Mitchell. They exchanged vows and congratulations for that. That's a big step in a man's life. So I'm not gonna poo-poo that. Shout out. All right, for marrying your piece, because I've been married to my piece for 30 years. Okay. So, there's some maneuvering that's got to take place. All right. For me, I want a backup point guard, and not just, and I know we got Craig Porter Jr., Tyrese Proctor, but I need a veteran backup point guard. Okay. If you're going to get rid of Dennis Schroeder, then you got to have a competent backup veteran point guard. And to me, it's Drew Holiday. I need Drew Holiday. Because when James Harden becomes James Harden, I can put James Harden's fanny on the bench, and I can get a championship point guard in Drew Holiday who's going to defend his position. You're not going to put Jalen Brunson out on the island versus Drew Holiday. You're not going to do that, because Drew Holiday going to lock him up, or at least defend him better. Okay? Do I want P.J. Washington? Absolutely not. What has P.J. Washington done in this league? Nothing. I don't want P.J. Washington. If we get Jonathan Kuminga on our own dime, great. If we're not giving up a whole lot of assets, fine. Okay? But if the Cavs come back as constructed, Kobe Altman can try to sell me, but it's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. You got to make upgrades. And I'm hoping that they're listening to Dan Gilbert, because Dan said that it wasn't good enough. And anybody who knows the history of Dan Gilbert needs to understand, when Dan say something, that's what he means. And if you can't do it, he'll find somebody else who will. Okay? Now, I do have one question, and this was brought up to me, and so I'm going to ask it. Is LeBron James feared in the league, even now at 41, 42 years old? And my short answer is no. He's respected. He's not feared. Nobody is afraid of LeBron James. Nobody. They're going to play him. They're not, it doesn't diminish who LeBron is. It doesn't. It doesn't diminish that LeBron James is one of the greatest players in the game. But in terms of, are you afraid to play him? No, you're not. People were afraid to play Kobe. People were afraid to play Shaq. People were afraid to play Michael. People are not afraid to play LeBron James. Not even in his heyday. Maybe his Miami day, people kind of was leery. But in terms of being afraid of LeBron James, no one's afraid of him. They understand what he can do. But no one is afraid of LeBron James. Okay? So somebody asked me that question, so I figure I'll bring it up and I'll talk about it. But LeBron James is respected. He's not feared. Okay. So even now at 41, 42 years old, he's respected. He's not feared. Okay. And then I heard some things in Philadelphia, Joel Embiid they're saying is in tremendous shape. My boys from 3 to Hardway sent me a picture of Joel Embiid. And I get that. And I'm glad Joel Embiid is in shape. And that's the key for Philadelphia. If they're going to go to the finals, that's the key for Philly. Joel Embiid has got to stay healthy. If Embiid is not healthy, Philadelphia is not going anywhere. I don't care how many Jaylen Browns you have and how many LeBron Jameses you have, how many Tyrese Maxeys you have. They're not going anywhere if Joel Embiid is not healthy. Okay? So I'm glad that if that picture that my boy sent me was true, that he's healthy and he's raring and ready to go. All right. All right. Last but not least, before I get into this last one, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I'm talking to my TikTok people, I'm talking to my YouTube people, my Facebook people. If you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I don't know what y'all waiting on. Go ahead and get it. Because not only do I do Cleveland sports, I will do, and I'm launching, and I'm so proud to launch this. I do Arizona sports. I've been living out in Arizona for 20 years. I've just retired from coaching. I've coached 3 different sports. Had a great time at it, but now I want to give back, and I want to be able to showcase young men and women in the Valley here. I live in what's called the West Valley, in the West Valley. And I want to, just showcase them because there are a lot of kids. Everybody's not D1. Everybody's not Division 1, but they still grind and they still want to be the best they can at whatever sport that they play. And they want to do something that's going to better them in their life. And so Coach Young, I want to showcase it. So the Locker Room, and I call it the Arizona edition, because this is the Cleveland edition. But the Locker Room is just something the tool that I use to just stay around the game. I love talking Cleveland sports. I love talking sports in general, period. So, but if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, then I want you to go to the tube called You. I want you to go to the Gram. I want you to go to TikTok. Okay, I'm even on X. And just look up the Locker Room with Coach Young. And you will find me. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Listen, I'm for all the smoke, y'all. I don't have no problem in it. I don't dodge the smoke. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I get corrected, I'm corrected. But you better come correct. All right? Because I do have a knowledge of sports. I go back. All right? I go back. So if you have not subscribed, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, share. And if you want a little bit more of Coach Young and my other brothers, then I want you to go to the tube called You, and I want you to hit up 3, the Hard Way Sports Talk, Sports Podcast. Okay? 3, the Hard Way. And I want you to like, subscribe, and comment and share with your friends when it comes to that. Okay? So, the Locker Room with Coach Young. Go ahead and do that. When you're done watching this, hit that subscribe button, share, send me a message. All right? All right. So, finally, I know I did it already. I like playing with the buttons, y'all. All right. The Guardians. Yes, I talk Guardians as well. Guardians made a trade. They made some trades, okay, to get better. And I got to read this on my notes. All right. Joe Adele is a power hitter, outfielder last year. He hit 37 home runs last year, and the Guardians acquired him. And so they also acquired Foster Griffin, who's a rookie pitcher from Washington. First baseman DH Nate Lowe from the Cincinnati Reds, and they really traded nothing for them. Okay, one of the two of these guys are a rental, but they're showing the Guardians, brass. They're showing the Guardians the players that they can see that these guys are really trying to win. Okay, they traded Bo Naylor, which Bo Naylor was terrible. He was not a very good catcher. Kyle Manzardo, who I have not held my feelings about Kyle Manzardo. Kyle Manzardo has been absolutely awful. And so they sent him down, and David Fry was sent down to the minors. Okay. They did beat the White Sox yesterday. I think they might have a game today. The Guardians are still within striking distance of first place in the Central Division. Like I said, I think their starting pitching is coming around. If these guys can just hit the ball, if they could get hits, string together some runs, I think we have a championship ball club. I really do. And I'm seeing it. Okay. No, they're not the Baerga, Sandy Alomar, Roberto Alomar, Manny Ramirez. They're not them. But the Rajay Davis, Guardians, yeah, that went to the World Series against Chicago. Yeah, they could get hot at any given time. Stephen Kwan is coming out of his slump. Okay. Travis Bazzana is still playing well. They're trying to rake the baseball. And so the Guardians brass went out and got them some help. So let's look and see over these next few games. Let's see if the Guardians will pick it up. All right. So, wasn't expecting the Guardians to make a trade, but wasn't expecting them to make the trade like they did. Okay. So looking forward to the Guardians. Like I said, I got to check and see. I'll check my local listings to see if they play today. Okay. All right, guys, that is it for me. Listen, if you want to send me a message, you can go to, like I said, my email is coachyoung3434@gmail.com. If you want something, want to ask me a question, I'll read your question on the air and I will answer your question. Okay. You can also go, like I said, to the tube called You, and you can go to the Locker Room with Coach Young and go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment and be able to hit that button. So when I go live, that you guys can see me. TikTok is the Coach Young Network, the CYN. That's what it is. It's a plethora of things that I do on the CYN. So I got a lot of talk shows that I do on the CYN, more than I can name right now, but the Locker Room has now been added to the Coach Young Network. All right. And then, like I said, I'm on all social media. You can check me out and just type in the Locker Room with Coach Young or Coach Young Network. Either one will work. Okay. And so please enjoy y'all Saturday. Make your day. Don't let your day make you. Okay. And as I always say on all my platforms, love on somebody. Tell somebody you love them. Don't always assume that they know. I will see y'all later.
Have reached the home of Robert and Dolores Young. Please feel free to leave a message and time of call. Have a blessed day. Goodbye.